All right. Well, welcome back to the Hydroplate week of celebration. I hope you're enjoying this, and we are blessed to have Ellen McHenry with us. She is the glue and the glue that holds us all together. She gets the ideas, and boy, oh boy, she gets things done. And this wouldn't be happening without her. So, and she's got a lot of insights that she'd like to share. So, welcome aboard, Ellen. We're glad you're
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Right. So, you're a big Hydroplate proponent. When did you find out about it, and how?
I think it was in the late 90s that I first got the book, and I couldn't really remember where I got it, but then I've kind of put two and two together. I think it must have been from Mike Snavely because he used to go to the Pennsylvania homeschoolers book fair conferences, and he said he had been there not too long after he discovered it and I thought, oh, I had been there as a homeschooler, and I thought that must be where I got it. I don't really remember, but it must have been from Mike Snavely at one of the Pennsylvania homeschooler conferences. I think it probably was the seventh edition at that point.
Yeah, Mike's done some
Um, yeah,
tremendous work, and a lot of people
yeah,
are coming, and it just makes
yeah.
sense. It's a powerful tool.
So it just shows you, he didn't know me from anybody, and I didn't know, I didn't know who he was, but it just years later, it's like, wow, that was a great connection. He didn't know he was giving the book to a future hydroplate geek.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. You never know what
So you
seeds they'll
never know.
produce.
You never
When
know
we're at those
who's,
tables and at those
yep,
conferences, just
yep, yep.
planting
You never
seeds.
know. That it was a big find for me at that homeschool conference. Best book I ever bought.
Oh, praise the Lord. Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. And so you're a big fan of
So
Walt. Did you ever have
Yep.
any
Yep.
experiences with
So
him?
first I want to tell you something about this is then I updated to another. I loaned out my seventh edition, never got it back. So then I had to buy an eighth edition, and it's being held together with duct tape now. This is
Oh
how
yeah,
much I've used it.
oh
It
yeah,
still has my notes. The binder's not falling apart because it's a cheap book. It's just because I've
oh yeah.
used it so much over the
Oh
years.
yeah.
So that's my old book. I have a memory associated with this book. I think it was maybe the first time I was reading through it. So what just a couple of years after I got it, took me a little while to get around to reading the whole thing. But I remember I was reading the trench chapter about the mid-ocean ridges
Yeah.
and the trenches. And I read that the mid-Atlantic ridge is on exactly the opposite side of the earth as the big Mariana Trench, those big trenches. And I went, wow, really? I never noticed that before. And so I took my globe
Yeah.
and I started, and I remember being almost afraid that he was going to be wrong.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I took my globe and I went, I found there's the mid Atlantic ridge, and I turned it, I kept my finger on that latitude over, and I was just like almost holding my breath. I was like,
Yeah.
is he going to be right? Is he going to be right? Is he going to be right? I kept turning and turning and turning. And of course, I was like, wow, he was right. It was just astounding to me to think that somebody had figured out the geological history of the world. Like, I just realized what I was reading, and just, wow.
Oh yeah.
It was just from then on, I was like, this is amazing.
Oh yeah.
So I just specifically remember that the first experience that I remember with the eighth edition.
Wow, yeah, it just colors in the details. I remember listening to
Yeah.
Walt Brown Week on Real Science Radio, or they sent me the DVD or CD of it, and it was just incredible. It just paints it all in. I've never seen the world the same, and even the solar system. How about experiences with Walt? Have you had any with him?
So I haven't met him in person. I would have liked to, but I have talked with him on the phone several times.
Oh,
Would have been 2010 or maybe 2015. So it was after I had read the book at least once, I think maybe twice. So I'll tell a funny story about me. I'm the butt of the joke here. So on one of those calls, I had one of my light bulb moments, the same as like my globe.
yeah.
And looking back on it, I can't believe I was so stupid in front of Walt, but he was always very, very gracious. I can't remember what exactly I called about, but part of the conversation was about how the crust changed. And now, mind you, I'd already read the book. Um, so apparently, though, I hadn't completely understood it. So he was patiently explaining yet again this part of the theory. And I suddenly really got it. I suddenly understood that the pre-flood crust was probably one whole piece with no cracks. And I said, you mean no Pangea? And he said, right, no Pangea.
Yeah.
So that just shows you how profoundly affected we are of all the ideas we learn in school, and especially because they're reinforced in every book, every video, every documentary, every museum.
Oh yeah.
Um, so even after I had read Walt's book, I still had not shed the idea of Pangea. So that experience helped me to realize how hard it is to wrap your mind around this theory. You can read the entire book several times and not completely understand all of it. But if Walt sensed that you had read his book, he would answer any questions. He was in no hurry to get off the phone. He was very, very patient. However, I did find it a bit intimidating. It was sort of like talking to your college professor. So every once in a while, he would ask me a question.
Mm.
So undoubtedly, he thought it was an obvious answer, right? So I was so nervous, though, my mind would immediately go blank. So after a few seconds of silence, he would just answer it for me and go on. I suppose maybe I got a few answers right, but mostly I remember feeling like I was failing a pop quiz. But this was just my reaction. He never took a scolding tone. He had great patience. That's what I remember, his patience. And also his confidence in his answers, that he really knew what he was talking about, not in a cocky way, but a very humble way, but he was very confident because I realized he'd studied this for a long time. So one other thing, in one conversation with Walt, I asked him where I could meet other people who knew about hydroplate theory. I was just calling, he was my only contact at that point. So I didn't want to have to call him all the time. I said, is there somebody else I can call? So he's a bit wary about giving out names without their permission, but he did tell me to get in touch with Bob Enyart.
Oh
So
yes.
then,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
he was the one who said, just call Bob.
Praise God
So
for
then, so,
Bob.
so
Man.
then, when I met Bob, then pretty soon I realized Bob had a Rolodex the size of,
Oh
he knew
yeah.
everybody.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, through Bob, I started to meet everybody else, started to meet, other hydroplate advocates, a lot of whom, now
Oh
too.
yeah. Yeah.
So Walt put me on to Bob, and I started listening to Real Science Radio and all that stuff. So,
Oh
and
yeah.
then I
Yeah.
actually went out and flew out in 2017 to meet Bob in person, and you can listen to me on the radio on one of those Real Science
Oh
radios.
yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, what a
So,
blessing. Yeah, Bob. I think he was the tip of the spear to get this into the mainstream.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Walt
And
was like, "Yeah, just go talk to Bob."
oh man, what a
Yeah,
blessing he's been. Incredible. Incredible. Yeah, Walt, and he's so gracious. And I think it was Mike
yeah.
Snavely said he just picked up the phone and called, and there was Walt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He had to put up with all this at one time or another.
And
He's
then
had to
what?
put up with, I mean, he must answer the same questions, Mike and Kevin and you and me. How many people called him with the same questions? And we'd read the book,
Yeah,
and he could sense that. And we still had these questions. So
yeah.
it should give us patience with newbies, that are learning about this. It's really hard to understand all of it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I listen to those radio shows when I'm traveling around the country, and it's like every time it's just, man.
Every time you forget, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I like his quiet confidence. He would go anywhere to answer any questions. He didn't have to have
Yes.
pre-approved
Yes.
questions or anything. He
Mm-hmm.
would just show
Mm-hmm.
up, and if you got a question, and then if he was wrong, he was grateful.
Right.
Like, yeah,
Right.
we
Yeah.
strengthened the theory and just
Yeah. Yeah. One of his famous quotes is, I could be wrong, but I
oh yeah,
remember him saying that. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
indeed. So were you able to teach any hydroplate anywhere?
So yeah, I've done a lot of homeschool teaching the last, oh, I can't even say how many decades. I've been doing homeschool classes with a large group in my area 2 days a week. And I did a lot of hands-on science. So the first time I taught it, it was after I'd read the whole book. I had an opportunity to introduce these ideas to a group of middle schoolers. I was doing a unit on earth science, and I decided to kind of test the water and see how they'd react to these hydroplate ideas. And I had to sneak up on it very carefully because I knew these ideas would be somewhat shocking to the parents,
Yeah.
not just the kids. But I found that the kids were
Oh
enthralled by
yeah.
the ideas.
Oh yeah.
They just loved it. It
Oh yeah.
was amazing. So, and in one of those classes, um, maybe it was the first time through with it. So the map in the back, this is
Yep.
one of these You
Oh
can
yeah.
feel it, topographical.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I asked one of the kids, I didn't tell them anything about the Pacific yet. And I wanted to see what their ideas were. And I said, what does it look like? What do you guys think happened here? And they
Mm.
looked at it a little bit. And one kid said, it looks like somebody took a giant fist and just punched like that.
Oh,
And
sure.
I went, yes, yes, that's exactly what we think happened, except the punch came from below, not above. But
Yeah.
I thought that was really insightful for
Oh
like,
yeah.
a fifth grader.
Oh yeah.
I was really excited about that. So then the next time I taught was for a high school group. I did a whole semester on it. And I had them try to read some of the chapters of the eighth edition. I printed some pages out for them so they could scrawl notes on them. We did a lot of discussing in class and explaining. And my takeaway from that class was that the kids loved learning it. They were excited. Was that the book itself was pretty hard to read for the average high schooler. Even though they're fascinated, it was difficult for them. The Brian Nickel videos would have been probably good to use back
Yeah.
then, but I don't think they existed when I did that
Sure.
class. I don't think Brian had done them yet. So anyways, but they really enjoyed it. And then a few years later, I taught another middle school class. I came back to the earth science again. I kind of rotated through topics, biology and chemistry, and came back to earth science. And this time I decided to write a curriculum that not only did a really good job of explaining minerals and rocks, giving them that really solid science foundation, but that also kind of introduced hydroplate theory as well as plate tectonics. I just cover that and hydroplate theory. So here's the finished book. It's called Rocks and Dirt.
Oh,
So
nice.
if anybody is doing homeschooling and you want, that's about how thick it is. It is a total of about 300 pages, but the
Wow.
last half of it is a teacher's section with tons of labs
Oh,
and
nice.
games and all kinds of stuff. But at this part of it, there's where I introduce hydroplate theory. We talk a little bit about plate tectonics, so they know about it. And then I also introduce, two other, you always say to keep multiple hypotheses, to keep kids
Yes,
thinking. So
exactly.
I introduce one, I'll talk about it in a minute, surge tectonics. So actually, I present two alternatives to plate tectonics.
Good.
But then, so if anybody's looking for a really solid actual curriculum book that introduces this hydroplate friendly, no evolution. You can best place well, you can just get this on Amazon. If just Rocks and Dirt, Ellen McHenry, it'll
Oh,
pop right
nice.
up. You can get
Nice.
digital copies on my website. I can show my website later, but
Nice.
so that was my end result of teaching the second time.
Well, praise the Lord, because
So,
that's one of my passions is to get it into the next generation. Because
so yeah,
if we don't
it
pass the baton, all it's going
yeah,
to
yeah.
do is they're going to
So
die
it's a
trying.
gentle introduction, just a
Yeah.
little bit to plant the idea. And the niche that I have found for my books is they're technically origins neutral, quote
Yeah.
unquote. They're no evolution, they're hydroplate friendly, but I don't print Bible verses in the bottom because I found that a lot of my customers, Christians who are teaching in public or private schools who aren't allowed to use quote religious materials, and this will pass. So
Great.
they're allowed to have an evolution free,
Great.
gives the hydroplate theory, does
Great.
no millions of years that will be okay in a public or private school setting as well.
Great.
But the homeschoolers, the people that use them, the people that believers that use them, they kind of catch on. Just the lack of evolution. They're like, yeah, I think Ellen McHenry's a Christian. They catch on pretty easily. But
Well,
anyway, that's my niche.
well, praise the Lord. Thank you so much for doing
So
that. And you're also letting them think. You're giving them two or three
yes, I
theories. That's
right,
what
right.
that should be in
And
every
I
museum and every textbook. Let people
Right,
think
right.
instead of
And I
just
don't
forcing them
tell
to
them in
think
the
of
end of that
something.
chapter. I don't say, no, you
Right.
need to believe this. I just lay out what it is and the reasons. And then when it comes to millions of years or something, I say, this is
Yeah.
why people believe this. This is the
Yep.
science. This is why people have other theories. This is why. And I
Yep.
don't tell the kids the
Yep.
conclusion. I want them going,
Yeah.
look here, look here. I want them to come to the
Because
conclusion.
then they're thinking, they're not just
They're
memorizing.
thinking. their
And that's,
thinking.
we need more thinkers in our
Yeah,
society, that's for sure. So good.
exactly, exactly.
And then
We
I
want
think like
people to think.
Walt Brown, he thought every student should do an origins project where they look at all
Yeah,
the science and try
yeah,
and figure out how did it get here. And it didn't matter
yeah.
what they chose, but could they argue it out?
Right,
Could they
right.
explain their position?
Yeah, and you,
That would go a
mhm,
long way for teaching critical thinking skills.
yep,
Because right now
yep,
in schools they just memorize and conform, and that's dangerous. That's dangerous
yep,
indeed. So that's one of the books. Do you have any other books
yep.
on hydroplate?
So, I wrote the first book that I wrote specifically on hydroplate is this one.
Hmm.
Actually, let me go back before I wrote this one. Um, uh, okay, I'll just tell you about a summary. I did a summary first before I wrote that one. I'll do it in chronological order. So
Yeah.
you've been showing this book, right?
Tectonic
Tonic
Globaloney.
Globaloney.
Got
Okay.
that one. Yeah, here we go.
Okay. So I asked around. Everybody was quoting this book, and Walt quotes it.
Yep.
And I remember emailing people, Kevin and others, asking questions about it. And I was like, "What's in it?" And I realized that don't. I'm telling people here now. Nobody had read the entire book. No one had actually read it. They
Ah,
just, they knew about it. Nobody had read it. And I said, well, somebody should do a summary. And I waited months and months, no takers, no takers. And I just went, all right, with no background in this kind of science, I'm just going to launch in and I'll see. I bought myself a copy and I read this thing cover to cover
yep.
6 times.
Yep.
And it was difficult to
Yeah.
write. So, yeah, so I had to do a lot of other learning. Like I'd come to a section and I'd be like, now what is this? I'd have to go and I'd look it up. And so there's a lot of other stuff I had to read about in order to do that.
Mhm.
But I did finally make a summary of it. So if you can't get a copy or you start reading this and it's like, wow, this is too much, the summary is posted for free download on hydroplate.org.
Oh,
If you
nice.
look under the resources, the PDFs, it's there. You can download it for free. You can read that. And
And it's
I
really
thought,
good. It's really
I
good.
thought,
I
so
used
it
it.
was, and okay, so I have to say, this is difficult to read, and now I know why. Because before I posted the summary, I thought, well, I should contact the author and let him know and get his permission to say, hey, I got this summary I'm posting for free download. Is that okay? So I found out nobody had been able to be in touch with him. They quoted him, but nobody had actually talked to him. And it was hard to find him. I had to like write to several of his publishers or whatever. And I finally had one of them was willing to give me an email address. And I was like, that probably won't work. But he wrote back. He wrote back. And so now Chris is one of my pen pals. Haven't heard from him for maybe over a year and a half now. But so we wrote back and forth, and I could ask some additional questions about the seafloor. And I learned from him that this is the book he would rather have people read,
Oh,
his textbook, Marine Geomorphology, but it's
yeah.
got a lot of it's pretty technical. It's got like a lot of his seafloor maps. But if
Yeah.
you really want to see what his research uh, is, if you're a person that really wants to see the raw data and stuff,
Well,
it's
yeah,
got
and
like
he's the guy who mapped the
yes,
ocean
he's the
floors. He
guy that
knows it
mapped the
better than
ocean
anybody,
floor.
and he knows that plate
So if you
tectonics
want to,
doesn't work.
yeah, if you want to see his maps and you like that kind of thing and you really want to see the anyways.
And he
So I
goes,
recommend that Marine Geomorphology. And then there's a sequel to it where he just dumped a lot of his research. So he didn't want to write another textbook. And I couldn't find the copy. I wanted to show it. And of course, I've got so many thousands of books in my house. I don't remember where I put it. But he wrote one more little book and he only made two copies, one for himself and one for me.
wow,
So I was really touched. That shows
wow,
I'd corresponded with him enough. I went back in my email list today and I was like, wow, I've got
wow,
dozens of emails. So we
wow.
emailed back and forth and I told him that we were promoting his book and everything. I sent him copies of other books. So yeah, Chris is my pen pal now. So
And I sure
so yeah,
appreciate
that was
it.
my first one. I did the summary
Yeah, that
and then
summary, I used that. I did a talk on my YouTube channel called Problems with Plate Tectonics, and I used your summary a little bit.
yep,
Because
yep. So
it was a little clearer
yeah.
than
So
the tectonic global.
yeah, it's a little bit clearer. And so Chris, after emailing, and I think I even talked to him on the phone once, um, He's a salty old sailor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
His language is salty. His
Yeah.
emails are a little salty. He's a character. He's a character. But anyways, that was fun to meet him. Anyway, so then I got brave to write my own book, and so I thought I'd
Exploring
tackle one part. This is
oh,
a
exploring the
exploring
mysteries
this
of
of
limestone.
limestone with hydroplate theory. So
Yeah.
my idea was to write just a series of small books. It's the only one in
Oh
the
yeah.
series right now. Take just one chapter because
Yep.
600 pages, that's a
Oh
big
yeah.
meal, right?
Oh yeah.
So but limestone, and so it's got some lots of nice pictures, and you learn a lot
Oh
about what
yeah.
limestone
And then the
is. It's got
problem
some,
with limestone is every time it forms, it produces carbon
yeah, and
dioxide, and
so
there's
yeah,
60,000 times more limestone than
exactly,
carbon dioxide. And so then
right.
Walt asked Bob Dietz, who he was taking
Mm-hmm.
classes with, hey, where'd all the limestone come from? And Bob says,
Yep,
beat the blank out of me.
yep, yep,
And so when they're talking about Walt not being a
yep,
geologist, hey, he took classes from one of the big hitters in plate tectonics who actually
yep,
coined the term seafloor spreading. And so they were friends. I think that's a good
yep.
example. We should have competing models and still be friends if that can happen.
Absolutely. He's a
Yeah.
great role model at that.
Yep.
That he's a great role model. So yeah, this is just basically the limestone chapter. I started with this because you don't have to know orbital mechanics, which
Oh yeah.
all that
Yeah.
complicated stuff. All you need to be able to understand is just a few very simple chemical equations, a lot of common sense. So that is the first purely kind of hydroplate book,
The
and it's
next one.
available. You can go on Amazon and whatever and get that. So
Yeah,
um,
the next one I suggest Grand Canyon. I'm going to be debating a guy in
okay,
about
well
half
that
an hour.
so
So
and they
yeah,
the
standing for a true YouTube
that
channel.
one is so his chapter is so well written. I'm just not sure I could do better than that. So I don't know. It's we'll see.
That'd be neat if they would
And
just, it would be neat if they would just print that chapter alone, you know?
yeah,
That would
it's
just
almost like
break
a
the book into
standalone topic.
chapters. Yeah, I like
So
that.
then another little resource is not a full book, but I just did this recently, like last month, and it's going to be a free download on the hydroplate.org website. If you just want a little one, two, three,
Yeah.
4 page flyer, it's just a short summary if you want to hand
Yep.
it out. It's not a full book. So I might tackle another full book here. I'm trying to think what to do next.
Grand Canyon. That's
So
my vote.
well, and we have Puzzle on the Plateau
Oh yeah.
video, and
Well,
that's
that's
so
a
good. I
video.
just feel like
That's a video. We need a book, a kid's
so
book.
I wanted to tackle meteorites. People are
Oh yeah.
fascinated with them, and I started doing research, and
Well,
then I
I
realized I'm going to have to research
well,
that a lot. So
I like how you make people question. It's like, why is the near side of the moon got all those mass cons? Why is that pounded up instead of the far?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So one thing to mention, one thing I learned from Chris Smoot was that you can't trust National Geographic maps.
Oh, really?
And if I can screen share, I can show you the
Yeah.
website that he recommended
Yeah. Go
to
ahead and
go
screen
to.
share.
Okay. Website is called gebco.net, gebco.net. And we won't poke around here. I'll just show you that's their home screen.
Okay.
So he thinks that has much more accurate. Some of their maps are really big, they're high resolution. It takes a while to download them, but that's where he said to go for the best maps of land or sea. So that's something I learned from him. And also another thing I learned from him is that the secular people that don't like plate tectonics, and there's a lot of them, what they generally like is the surge tectonics. But anybody who has alternative theories to plate tectonics, you can get published here.
Oh,
The
wow.
new concepts in global tectonics journal. It's an online journal. I don't think they have it print, but you can go poke around here. Journal issues. You can find
Good.
if you, topics or whatever. You can poke around on this website. But that's where secular people publish that don't like plate tectonics.
Okay.
And I was told that in places like Australia and Japan, they've been more affected by these new theories.
Yep.
And supposedly I heard that in Japan they teach plate tectonics and surge
Well,
tectonics.
good. Yeah, there
So
should
they give their students options. They talk about both.
good.
Let's see. Then I was going to show you a place you can get some of these
Yay.
resources on
Hydroplate.org.
hydroplate.org if you want
There's
to
the
see. There's some books. There's the limestone book. And of
under
course,
merchandise.
right here, the first is there's the ninth
Ah,
edition, how the new cover is going to look.
Good.
And if you click on it, there won't be any information yet, but when you click on it eventually, it'll show you where to order. It'll give you some options. Here's another book that's helpful. Speaking of plate tectonics and not liking it, 20
Yeah.
Reasons to Question Plate Tectonics gives you history and gives you all the problems. And then it gives you, and additionally, it also gives you several other alternatives that you haven't heard of. There's more alternatives out there than you think. So that's pretty helpful. And then there's Mike's Horror the Flood video. Mike Snavely does that, and the Grand Canyon. We're just talking about Puzzle on the Plateau. I just don't, I can't write anything better than that. It's an excellent video. And then I think you were plugging these on one of the other interviews. There's Bob Enyart's Global Flood and Hydroplate Theory, and there's Brian Nichols' tutorials, which you can get on YouTube. But also, if you'd like to have them on DVD, not have to stream, there they are. You can get them. And then I just added this right here. I'm going to click on, whoops, down here. If you want some Hydroplate merch, like I'm wearing, an
Yeah,
official
absolutely.
Hydroplate t-shirt. This is a great conversation starter. Um, you can go, I'm going to click on purchase, and you just go over to a website that I use. I just upload the images, and there's mugs, t-shirts,
Nice.
tote bags. If you click on one of them, um,
Oh,
it'll
very
show you,
nice. NASA
it'll show you
scientists
what's
work
on the
for World
back.
Ground. Oh, praise the
You can
Lord. Look
and
at this.
you can see a guy will turn around and you can see what the shirt will look like when
Oh
you're wearing it.
man. Well, they got Christmas coming. Everybody get you
Yeah, so this will
go
be
into
great. And then there's
hydroplate.org, do your
various,
shopping.
yep, there's, stuff, men's, women's colors. There's often a color choice.
Nice.
So
Very
yeah,
nice.
so that's that. If you can't get the ninth edition, you can get some other merch for
Oh yeah.
Christmas for
And then get
people.
those
And
Mike Snavely videos, the puzzle on the
yep,
plateau
and
and
you can
the
get
horrors
that.
of the flood,
Yep,
because you cannot see those on YouTube or online. You have to buy
that's
those.
right. That's
And
right.
that's a
Yep,
good source of information.
yep,
Excellent source.
yes. Yep.
Absolutely. Wow, that's exciting. Wow, I haven't seen
So yeah,
that.
well, hopefully that will just grow over the months and years. That we'll have more and more things available.
If you want to stop sharing, I can show the mugs.
Stop share.
Hey,
Yep.
hey, hey,
So
there she is.
there's your Hydroplate. There's I think
Oh
four
yeah.
different ones. There's a Working for Walt Brown mug if you want to be reminded of all the scientists that
Oh
work
yeah.
for Walt Brown. And this one just shows the fountains of the great deep, and it says never underestimate the power of supercritical
Oh
water.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And this one says it sounds crazy until you look at the evidence. And I
Oh
heard
yeah.
Walt say that actually on air. It's probably on Real Science Radio. I remember saying, Bob, I know it sounds crazy, and I'll be the first one to admit it,
Yeah.
but you got to see the evidence.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I
think
got
that's
those
all.
mugs too. Yeah, thanks for yeah, we got some mugs here. It's got some shirts here. Yeah, so again, you got Christmas shopping. You might as well support a
Yep.
Christian organization. Let the world support other places and do the merch. Just do all your shopping at hydroplate.org, and it'll be a blessing to plant those seeds in the next generation, because there's a battle
Yep.
for them and you got to get them equipped.
Yep.
And this is one
Yep.
of the best
And it's a
ways to
great
equip them.
conversation piece. When you're wearing a shirt with an exploding earth on it,
Oh
people
yeah.
are going to be
Oh,
like, what is that? And then that
exactly.
gives you an opportunity. So people that know me, like they joke that I can turn any conversation into a conversation about hydroplate theory. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. I can somehow turn the conversation and I get going and I just talk and talk and people are like, oh boy, there she goes again. He's just no
Yeah.
stopping me. And I
Yep.
sometimes I go like, stop me if you know you if it's enough or whatever. But usually the people are like, no, no, this is really fascinating. So I think one of the things that is really nice about hydroplate theory is that it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Like scientific theories aren't generally like a lot of fun,
Right.
but it's fun. It's fun being a hydroplate
Oh,
geek.
and when
It's
I talk
fun.
to the
And people,
college students just love it when
yeah,
you
yeah,
can connect all the
yeah,
dots and paint in the details. They love this. They love
yeah.
thinking.
So
So
it's a
thank
lot
you.
of fun to have all these crazy, crazy stories to tell, which are actually true. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. Now we just have to get it into the mainstream. And I like that
Hmm.
homeschool convention thing. I just registered for two of
Yep,
them next year. It's going to be Minnesota
yep,
and Iowa. I was there
yep.
this year, and it's a good way to have conversations. And I encourage anybody, if you got the time,
Hmm.
and
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll provide the books if anybody wants to sell. If they're doing any kind of vending at any of these conventions, I will send you books at cost. These
Wow.
books only cost the print to actually get them printed, like $4 or some $5 or
Wow.
something like that. And then of course you sell
Wow.
them on Amazon, they jack up the price. But I'll let you have them at the wholesale price if you
Wow.
want to sell them at whatever book fairs you go
Oh,
to. Just
praise the
contact
Lord.
me, Ellen McHenry at Hotmail. Just
Ellen McHenry at Hotmail, and that's
Yep, just let me know. Yep.
McHenry. Ellen
Just like Fort
McHenry.
McHenry. Yep.
Sounds great. Good. Do you have any other or website that they could look at that you'd want to?
Well, my business website is ellenjmchenry.com,
Great.
and you can see all my books there.
Great.
You'll see the rocks and dirts, but I have a
Good
lot of
deal.
other books there too. I even
All
have some
right.
video e-courses. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, Ellen. I think they're going to
it
cut
was
us off
fun.
pretty soon.
It
So
was
again,
fun.
indeed, indeed. And keep planting those seeds and we'll see what harvest there is when we get to heaven.
Absolutely. That'll be
Amen.
wonderful.
All right. Thanks again, Ellen. You're a
Yep.
blessing.
Yep. Take care.